a daring entrepreneur who started his journey with a success story when as young as 24, and today is the proud founder of Zamzam Token, a project to help heal the world. Hamed Fakhro, the Bahraini businessman who believes the secret of remaining happy is keeping the child in one alive, one who advocates that the best thing in life comes free. Zamzam Pro, the only Sharia-compliant token marking its entry into the global cryptocurrency market in partnership with Sparrow, a Microsoft for Startups company, aims to give every citizen of the world the joy to give to their favorite cause, says Mr. Fakhro. Writer, speaker, investor, accountant, real estate developer, Mr. Fakhro is a mentor to the young and works closely with different organizations to empower startups, young entrepreneurs, and students. After schooling in Lebanon and college in France and the US, Mr. Fakhro started off with a marketing and IT company and later the successful Gulf Business Enterprises in Doha. Subsequently, in Bahrain, he set up the Startup Factory and Incubator for Bahraini Youth, Seif Business Center, Hack Arabia, Fakhro Properties, and Fakhro Accounting, among others. From Voodoo, the wash basin for ablution to suit children and elderly, to Puffy, a foldable shopping cart, and BA, an online hypermarket app, Mr. Fakhro's innovative designs and findings keeps him on the top list of inspirational Bahrainis who believes in giving back to his country and people. The man who battled odds in life, yet woke up each day happy and smiling, someone who loves independence and adventure, Mr. Fakhro volunteers with several governmental and semi-governmental entities. A columnist in the Gulf Daily News, Mr. Fakhro is a gifted writer whose literature flawlessly flows over topics of all kinds. He can pen poetry on politics and technology alike. His lines on men and mankind can choke or chime a reader. You have to do what you love and what you know, but it's good to measure twice before you cut, says the ever so jovial man with a twinkle in his eyes. Joining us this evening on BizTalk from BMC Global Life, a show that features stories behind business leaders, is the director of Fakhro Properties and founder and chief executive of Zamzam Token, Hamed Fakhro.
It is all about perception and how you struggle along the way. A loss can be worth many wins. Well, if I'm asked to pick 10 top inspirational Bahrainis, the man who said this will be on my list, and that too among the top 3. Joining this evening on BizTalk from BMC Global Live, it is Fakhro Properties Director and founder CEO of Zamzam Token, Hamed Fakhro.
Thank you so much, Raji, for the beautiful intro. And when I saw the video, I had no clue that I did that much in my life. So I really appreciate you being here and inviting me, and I appreciate the very generous, warm intro. Thank you.
Thank you, Hamed. Thank you for that beautiful start, making me feel nice. Well, this show features business leaders and their success stories.
Right.
And definitely, you belong here.
Thank you.
And thank you for letting me borrow the quote, which I just
I don't know where you found it, but that's one of my.
I found it somewhere.
That's somewhere that I keep saying.
Yes,
you know,
you're someone who look at it in a different perspective beyond winning and losing.
Right.
Let me start from that.
Okay.
And the journey has been far, and you stand with Zamzam in hand.
Right.
Let's begin with that.
Okay. So Zamzam is my latest project, and I believe my last startup. Now, I've been saying it's my last startup for the last 3 or 4 projects.
Okay.
But I think this is really my last one. This is my life project. I'm all in this one. And the difference between this and the rest of my projects is that I'm doing it to have a self-sustaining project for humanity that can carry itself for the next 100, 200, 300 years. That's the idea of Zamzam token. So as you know, I've been involved a lot with charity. Now, my main issue is when I see somebody who needs assistance or help, or I get a message or something, I need to make sure that that person is verified. So I go to their house, or I go to the hospital or wherever to visit them, and I go unannounced. And I check them out, I look at their papers, I speak to them, and once I know that they really need help, I gather money for them, and I help them out. Now, I won't be around forever, and I can't save the world, right? So with the beauty of blockchain, I was thinking, what if we had a system that you can see exactly where every dollar or dinar that you spend goes to, and there's no middleman, so nobody takes a fee. We're not taking any fees. And at the same time, you can empower and encourage any person to start a project to help any person or any project around the world. So let's say you're young and nobody knows you. You don't have credibility, you don't have money, you don't have any contacts. What do? You go to our platform. You create a page. You take pictures and videos of the person or project who you want to help, and you say, I need $1,000, for example. Our donors will come in, take a look. If they like the project, they fulfill the $1,000, and they vote to release the money in stages. So let's say at the beginning they need 10%, vote, okay, we begin. As the project continues, the project angel, which is the person who's describing the whole issue, puts up pictures, puts up videos, does live videos. And when it comes to the next phase of payment, again, the donors vote whether to release the payment or not. So in that case, if you don't like where the project is going, you get your money back even.
Of how the things are moving on.
Yeah, so it's real life, crowd voting, crowd funding, complete democratic humanitarian aid that empowers anyone to help anyone else. So the whole project itself symbolizes good. And whoever buys or donates or is a project angel or is a company to support it is part of our network of good. So that's why it's my life project, because what I've been seeing, the traction that we got in the last 3.5 months is something that I never dreamt about. I didn't dream we'd reach this far even in a year. We have millions of dollars worth of Zamzam being traded daily. We've gone over $1 billion worth of trade. On our first day when we launched, the exchange that we were on was called Whitebit. And I was trying to figure out how many tokens we put in that exchange, right? So they were telling me, put about 1 billion Zamzams, which is about $100,000 worth.
Okay.
And based on the demand that we were getting from friends, family, people that we know, people that we don't know, we were getting crazy calls that they want to buy before we list in the market. And we didn't even market, by the way. It's just word of mouth. So I personally saw about $1 million that people wanted to buy pre-market.
Okay.
Obviously, we didn't, and we couldn't sell to anyone. We told them, please go to the exchange and buy. So as an accountant, I did the math. And we have these risk multiples, right? So I was thinking, what do I multiply this million? By 10, by 20, by 30? So I went nuts and I said by 30. So I told the exchange, I'm expecting between 5 to 30 million on day one in trading. And the guy said, that has never happened before. I said, what's your record? He said, 10 million is the most for the biggest project. Okay. I said, I think it's going to be more. So to be safe, let's put 5 billion tokens. Because I didn't want a crazy spike. The less supply you have, the higher the price will be.
Okay.
And I don't want people to lose money. So on day one, we had 15 million, which is almost exactly in the middle of what I expected. And that night, I still couldn't believe it happened, you know. And I still can't believe that we have a community of over 30,000 followers. I still can't believe that we're on 5 different exchanges. I can't believe that the Middle East knows about us. I can't believe that a guy from Japan called us 3 days ago. He wants to cover us. You understand? We got a call from the US. We've partnered with Microsoft for this MVP. So, I mean, thank God, knock on wood, you know, it's going.
Definitely, the project has really a humanitarian touch to it. You know?
Yes.
You called it right when you said to heal the world.
Right.
That's what the world needs.
I hope so.
All the very best to the new project, Hamed.
Thank
Let's
you.
allow me to call you Hamed.
Absolutely,
You're a great
of
friend.
course. We're old friends, Raji.
So let's get back. You said you hope that this is your last startup.
Yes.
Well, we do not know because from the history that you have,
Yeah.
tell us about your first startup.
Okay. So I never thought that I was going to start as a self-starter. You know, I don't like to call myself an entrepreneur because you're not supposed to. You can say somebody is an entrepreneur, but you can't call yourself an entrepreneur. So anyway, as a self-starter, I thought I was going to come out of college and, you know, get a desk job in a bank or something for, you know, a year or two and then see where my path takes me. But, you know, as luck had it, me and my best friend had an idea, and we met up with another 2 best friends, and we decided to start our own IT company because, you know, they were experts in IT. Long story short, do not partner with your friends.
Okay. Lessons learned.
Lessons learned. Within, I think, 3 months, we burnt through our capital, and we crashed and failed miserably. It was a very bad failure, and we lost 2 friends along the way. So I remained with my best friend again, and our path took us towards marketing. So we said, okay, let's continue, but we'll do marketing instead of IT. Long story short, we didn't know enough about cash flow management. We didn't know enough about overhead. We paid for a huge full-story building in the diplomatic area, like a full floor. And we burned so much money, I can't even think about it. And we failed again. And then after that, we got a call from a family member in a neighboring GCC country, and he is a very successful businessman. Yusuf bin Josim al-Darwish. He was my mentor. And he said, why don't you come and see if you want to do something in Qatar? So this was in 2002, obviously. You know, things were calm, things were stable. We were best friends as a GCC. And I learned from him things that you'd never imagine. You'd think that a billionaire goes to the office, drinks tea, signs some papers, and goes home, right? This man would know where every single screw is in his business. He would get into the tiniest details. And more importantly, he is obsessive about time to the minute. So I remember once we had a meeting with QTEL at, I think it was 8 o'clock. And I went to his office at 7:30. And he was sitting in the car, and he was so upset. He's like, why are you late? I'm like, I'm not late. He's like, the meeting's at 7:30. I'm like, no, it's at 8. He's like, it's 7:30, and don't be late again. When we checked, it was at 8. But the fact that this man was sitting in the car waiting to be on time rang a bell with me. So these small things helped me a lot along the way. You know, this experience mixed with. So we did very well, alhamdulillah. Came back to Bahrain, took the money that I made and put it into the stock market, and into real estate. And I began, Fakhro Properties, and I began C Business Center, and a few other residential and commercial projects. And it was fun for me because you can get creative in properties. The design, the interior design, and the building, what's it gonna like? So you imagine how would the tenant feel in this situation? So I built everything according to how I would like to live in it, right?
The personal touch.
The personal touch. And that's where I had my base. I had my own office, I had my own house, I had my own cars, I had a little boat, that I can come and go. And that was at the age of 28.
Okay.
So at the age of 28, I had everything that I needed in life. And I still didn't learn the lesson that the most important thing in life is satisfaction, or contentment, actually. That came later. But to me, every time you get something, you say, okay, I just want a little bit more, a little bit more. And the grass is never green enough, right? Now I've learned that as long as you have your health and your happiness,
yes,
family, some good friends, that's all you need in life.
We will come to that.
Okay.
We need to hear from you on that.
Okay.
But before we move to that,
Yeah.
I want to talk to you, rather. I know about it, but I want the audience to
Right.
hear it from you about two unique things which I really loved personally,
Okay.
your findings, very innovative. The voodoo,
Yes.
the wash basin
Right.
illusions,
Yes.
and Puffy.
Okay.
Puffy was more interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Okay, so wudu came actually at exactly that phase in my life when I was 28. I wanted to wash my foot before prayer
The
time.
prayer time, yeah.
And I had a back injury from football. So it was difficult. And at that moment I thought, okay, I'm tall, relatively tall, and I'm having difficulties. What about the old people? What about the women, the non-athletes, the children? How do they wash their feet? There must be a better way. So I took some styrofoam and I built it into the design that I thought, two wash basins with a big sink in the middle. And I needed to transform this prototype into reality, right? So I called Rack Ceramics and I tried to get in touch with their CEO, and it was almost impossible. They would not answer the phone. Luckily, I know Sultan Al-Qasmi. He was with me in college in France.
Okay.
And I'm like, Sultan, I need to get in touch with the CEO of Rack. Nobody below him will do, because I need to talk to the top guy. In business, you have to talk to the top guy if you want things to get done. Okay. And he said, don't worry about it, I'll hook you up. So he called him. I went to meet him. And he pushed me down to the head of marketing, and the head of marketing pushed me down to the head of, I think, manufacturing it was. We sat for about 5 minutes. He took me for a tour of the factory, and then he tried to sell me a container worth of plates and ceramics.
Okay.
And he said, thank you very much. So I remember the feeling on the taxi going back home. I felt crushed, because this was something that I dreamt of for such a long time. And I thought it could really make a difference. So I got back home to Bahrain, and for 3 days I was totally depressed. And then I was talking to one of my friends, and he's like, man, come on, it's not rocket science, it's a basin. Why can't you find someone to do it? So I picked myself up, got in touch with one of my friends who has, Mohammed Al-Muayyad, who has, a showroom that sells sanitary ware, and they have a factory in Oman as a partner, Oman Ceramics. He's like, yeah, of course, I love the idea, go for it. Perfect. So he went there, I met the CEO, I had a head of design, head of marketing, head of sales, like the whole team was there. And we sat on the table, we got some pizza, and they said, your design is nice, but there's some flaws, we can fix that. We fixed the flaws, and about 1 month later, we had about 4,000 units of wudu wash basin. Now at that time, if you look at my picture, you'll notice that I'm a stick. I was very thin. We got an order from the Awqaf in Bahrain, and at the same time discovered I had cancer. So I had to go to Germany for treatment. Sadly, nobody was there to follow up.
Okay.
The order fell through. And it took me, I think, about a year to go through my treatment. When I came back, the project was dead. There was nothing. I tried to revive it. We put it in, I think, 60 different mosques with Viva, and then we put it in old folks' homes, retirement home. But, you know, there's a certain sort of kind of momentum that you have to maintain with a startup. If it dies, it dies. And that's one of the hard lessons that I learned. And the momentum just wasn't there. It needed a redesign. To be honest, it wasn't aesthetically pleasing. It was just functional. It had to look better. I didn't have the energy, to be honest with you, to go for another round of. So sadly, you know, once we ran out of the stock, I didn't go again for round 2. But I learned a lot about manufacturing, about design, about transport, travel. You know, a million things that have to do with inventing. I learned patents. You know, all of this stuff I learned. So that took me to Puffy.
Puffy.
Yes. Puffy.
What a lovely name. I still remember asking you, why did you name it Puffy?
Yeah, Puffy. I don't know, just these thoughts just come to you, you know, in your head. So Puffy, I was in the US with my wife who was getting treated for cancer. And I was obviously the bag man, right? So I'd carry everything, obviously, every time we went shopping. So all these grocery bags would kill me, you know, carrying them down this long corridor to our apartment. So again, I thought there has to be a better way. And this time I'm in the States, you know, the mother of invention and innovation. So again, I took an umbrella and some old antennas, and I broke them apart, and I tried to see, you know, could I find... I looked for a solution for myself, by the way, and I couldn't find. All the cars were big and bulky. I wanted something that you can fold and use for apartments and then open up again. So once I visualized it, I was like, okay, perfect. Now I learned the mistakes from the first one, right? Okay, I'm not going to waste my money. I'm going to go on Kickstarter, and I'm going to fund the prototype this way. So I went on Kickstarter. I gathered about 14,000 dinars it was. And that paid for the engineering, the design, the prototype, which was done by an American company, engineers, ex-NASA engineers actually. And it was a beautiful prototype. And I found a Chinese manufacturer to do it. Again, a mistake, quality control.
Okay.
All the units that came had flaws. The screws would fall out, the wheels would fall out, the cloth was too thin. And the saddest part is that I didn't spend anything to market it. I put it on Amazon, and I did a Facebook page and a website. And Raji, I swear to God, I would get 3 orders per day like clockwork. 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 at night. Which means that people like the idea.
Yeah.
But we'd get complaints. You know, it's faulty, it's breaking, the wheels are falling off. So obviously we'd refund them. But again, I'd have to go through this whole redesign, which takes time and money. And at the same time, my wife finished her treatment and came back to Bahrain. So I have to be on the ground, right? To deal with the supplier, to deal with the import, to deal with the customs, to deal. So again, unfortunately, and very sadly for this one specifically, I came back to Bahrain and it died. Because this one, I feel way more than wudu. We had a real acceptance to the product. And again, I lost steam, you know, and I put it to rest. That's the thing about a startup. You have to keep the momentum going. Once it breaks.
This is the lesson that you're giving to young entrepreneurs, you know?
Yes.
Because though you say with that drooping face that you were sad, yes, Puffy and Voodoo, I'm sure that were dear to your heart.
Yes.
But it failed, and you
Yes.
said the first 2 projects failed. But
Yes.
today you're here
Of course.
with your project close to the heart.
Yes.
Well, that's Hamed Fakhro telling us his stories in the journey of entrepreneurship. Join us after a break on Biz Talk. Welcome back to Biz Talk from BMC Global Live, and with me this evening is Hamed Fakhro. So in the first segment, we closed the first segment with a couple of failure stories.
Yes.
And when I introduced you to the audience as a successful entrepreneur, you know, very often people look at you as a successful person and they really don't understand the struggle that you've been through. When you said about Voodoo, when you said about Puffy, I could feel the emotions within you as to how bad you must have felt, isn't it?
Correct.
And you, but did not stop.
Yes.
There are many out there, especially in today's world.
Yes.
I do not know if it's cultural or global. I wouldn't want to comment on that. You're a better person to do that from this point. There are many people who give up so fast.
Right. Well, I mean, what I've noticed when I had my incubator and when I mentor young people, they have an inherent crippling fear of failure. And I don't know if it's because of culture, they don't want people to laugh at them. I don't know if it's because they themselves don't want to admit that they are failures if they fail.
How did the world react to your failures, the first two failures?
You know, I always thought that it would be such a big deal, but nobody cares. Nobody cares, you know, whether you fail or not. Everybody's focused on their own thing. So when you sit there and you say, oh, I don't want people to think that, you know, I failed, everybody's too busy to be doing their own thing. So to me, it's very important to fail. Because when you lose money, when you lose time, when you get heartbroken, that's when you learn the real lessons. Why did I fail? How did I fail? What was the reason? And that's how you can adjust and fix it the next time. So out of all my projects, which probably are over 15 for sure, I've had a 50-50 or maybe a 40-60 hit-miss, right? So I make it in some and I lose in some. You know, there's no way anyone can bat 100% success. But that's what made me the man I am today. So when you start a project, you're going to have, first of all, everyone and the kitchen sink and, you know, even the family pet is going to be teaching you on what you should do. No, do this. No, do that. No, you should do this. Now, that confuses a person. But you have to remember that the only person who really knows what the project is and what the direction is you. So it needs tenacity, it needs guts, it needs spunk, and that is the distinguishing factor between somebody who can succeed and somebody who will fail. And to me, by the way, success is not even monetary. My ultimate success is happiness, believe it or not. If you're happy, you've won at life, because it's all about the mentality, right? Again, I come back to being satisfied or being, what's the word, Raji, that I just used?
Contentment.
Contentment. Okay, so contentment to me is success. Doing well in business is great, but if you're happy with, you know, just existing, I'd be jealous of you, right? And you see a lot of people who are filthy rich. They have houses and planes and cars, but they're unhappy, or they want more, or they're unsatisfied, or whatever it is. Okay, is that success? That you're stressed and angry every day? Or are you happy every day? So to me, do what you love. And I think I figured out the secret to life, and I think it's giving. I think so.
Yes, I was about to come to that, because your definition of giving back is something so very different from my research on you and from knowing you.
Right.
And I'm sure from all what you've been speaking, there is some reason for you to be speaking so much about being happy in life.
Yes.
It's not about riches. I'm sure you have a bigger lesson to share with us.
Absolutely. Well, again, I was lucky and I was cursed. So I got cancer, right? And for the first time, you actually face mortality. Before that, I'm going to live forever. And, you know,
Yes.
rock and roll, baby.
Yeah.
But sitting with death every single day and not being able to walk from the bed to the shower without blacking out, or not being able to see your friends and family because you have zero immunity, or not being able to eat because you don't have any appetite, not being able to walk. Like, I'd go out at night and I'd walk 50 meters and I'd feel like passing out. So just these little blessings, you appreciate them so much more. You know, I'd be sitting in traffic and I see people angry around me, and I'm like, why are you angry? You have your health. You know, I'd see someone cleaning the road.
Indeed.
I'd be jealous of him because he has his health. So sitting with death made me promise myself, because I was thinking, what have you done if you're gone tomorrow? What have you done? What have you left behind? You know, what have you done to help the world? And specifically this country that gave me everything, right? I'm lucky. I got my education. I got a very solid, happy childhood and upbringing. And all the wealth that I accumulated was from our economy, right? Because we have a strong, stable economy. So I promised myself, if I make it through this, I'm going to give back in whatever way I can.
Beautiful.
So that's when I started writing, remember? And it was for Startup Bahrain. You know, we started this project. Mazen Sawafiri, Ahmed Sawafiri, and Kamal. I can't believe I forgot his name. Anyway, Ahmed, Mazen, and Kamal, they started a project called Startup Bahrain. And I was just a contributor to that. And it became a national movement. And now it was bought out by the EDB. And even the same team remains. So that was the beginning. And then I started writing for the GDN. And then I started writing for a few other publications. And then I got called by some organizations. So I started working with INJAWS, I started working with IKNAS, Bayonne School, University of Bahrain. And that took me to my incubator because I couldn't find a local incubator that had a businessman behind it. You know, all the people who were teaching the students were employees themselves. So how can you teach someone about starting up your business when you've never started up your own business before, right? So I'd hear their pep talks and they'd be like, yeah, just don't give up and this and that, but I can't take you seriously until you show me what you've done. So I made a very difficult criteria to enter into the incubator. I handpicked only the ones who I thought were really unique and special. And I had, I think, 5 or 6 projects under me. One of them succeeded only. And it was a girl called Haya. She's fantastic. And sadly, again, COVID hit in, what was it, 2000? I don't even know the years. I don't even know what year we're in anymore. I think it was 2020 or 90, I don't know. So we stayed open for a year waiting or hoping that COVID would disappear. It didn't. So again, I had to shut the doors on the startup factory. But I'm telling you that I think I found the secret to life, which is love and giving back. That's the only thing that really makes sense to me. Nothing else makes sense.
Right. You just touched upon writing for the GD, and I'm a great fan of your columns.
Thank you, and me of yours.
The literature, it's pure literature.
Thank you.
That flows through, just as I said in your profile. I wrote that from my heart. You can be poetic in politics and
Thank you.
business alike.
You're too kind.
Do you write anything else? Do you write poetry or any other? Because I still remember the obit piece that you wrote on the late Prime Minister.
Yes.
I remember I could hear, while reading through your piece, I could hear the sand crushing under your...
Thank you.
Isn't it? It's beautiful literature. So do you write otherwise, other than...
You know, I gotten the exact same comments, the exact same words that you have said from many people. And they said, for example, I can smell the air when you're talking about being in the taxi. I can feel the surrounding. When I write...
Oh, you describe nature.
How I
you pen them.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much. I just, I just sit, and I don't even know what I'm going to write about, by the way. And I just let it go, and then I sleep on it. The next day I fix any errors that come out, and I send it out. But, you know, it's very strange that you've had the insight to capture what I wrote about His Royal Highness, the late Prime Minister Sheikh Khalifa bin Salman, because he's the one that inspired me to write in the first place, by the way.
Interesting.
When I wrote one or two, I think, or three articles, I used to go visit him in the palace. And we had a very special, close relationship.
Bond,
I would
yeah.
say father and son. Even when I was sick, he's the one that, you know, ordered my treatment anywhere that I like. He called and followed up and asked about me. And I remember once when I met him, he's like, I really like your writing. Please continue and I will support you. So those words meant so much, right? And that's what kept me writing. And if you noticed, since his passing, I haven't written that much.
I haven't written much, yes.
And it's because it hurts. Every time I see that blinking light, you know, of the Microsoft Word, I remember him. And it's not writer's block. It's just I need to get over his passing, and then I think I can write naturally.
Some people
again.
leave a void which takes time to fill.
He left a very big void.
Very big void,
Yeah.
Indeed.
So I don't write anything anymore, but eventually I will write, I think, probably a novel based on my life. And I think I have some very interesting things that nobody knows about.
Okay.
And I think it would be very cool to write them down, you know, in my upbringing, my brushes with death, my tough lessons with people, my fights, my struggles, you know. I think it'll be interesting. I don't know.
Yes, you must write, and I would look forward to reading that, Hamed.
Thanks. Thank you,
All right.
Raji. Thanks.
On that note, let's take another break, and that is Hamed Fakhro with me on BizTalk from BMC Global Life.
Thank you.
Welcome back to BizTalk from BMC Global Life, and with me is Hamed Fakhro. So as we come to the last segment of this evening,
Yeah.
trust me, I really enjoyed every bit of the conversation.
Pleasure is mine.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And we have the chamber elections around the corner.
Right.
We sit 2 days away.
Yes.
Yeah, on Saturday.
Oh, it's that
On
close,
Saturday.
huh? 2 days.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
You are a businessman,
Yes, ma'am.
an entrepreneur with
Thank
a
you.
fire and the spark, and the man who calls a spade, from what I know.
Yes.
And you've had your experience fighting the parliament election once, isn't it?
No.
The municipal election.
No, I just ran for the chamber twice.
The chamber?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
I actually put my name in the hat for the parliament, correct?
But then you...
And then I retracted after 3 days.
Okay. So I'm talking of the election scenario.
Yes.
All right. So what would be your take on the current chamber, without elaborating much, because I would want to
Yes.
have your feel on, like, you know,
Right.
where is the chamber heading to,
Right.
and what would be your vision? And for the young entrepreneurs out there, or
Yeah.
the young businessmen, SMEs, which form the nerve of the country's economy,
Right.
what is your take on all this, Hamed?
Well, Raji, I got involved with the chamber about 10 years ago, and I was a bright-eyed, optimistic young businessman, hoping to be able to make a change through such a prestigious, organization as the chamber.
Yes.
And in the U.S., if you know, the chamber is the second or third most powerful association. You know, the businesses shaking their boots when they hear the chamber. And I was hoping to be a small part of it, which I was. I was in some committees, and in a couple of rounds, I was the vice chairman of the entrepreneurs committee. I was in the SME committee.
SMEs committee, yeah.
And we did some really interesting studies on the free visa
visas, yeah.
issue and a couple of other things. And I ran, as you know, twice. Once I ran as an independent, learned my lesson. Second time I formed our own coalition, and we ran against one of the leading businessmen in the country. And unfortunately, obviously, we didn't make it. And even in the last round, I was invited to take part in a couple of studies. Now, I believe that our economy needs a lot of support at this moment. A lot of businesses are struggling. A lot of businesses have shut down. A lot of people have left the country. And if we don't get new ideas and fresh blood into these organizations, we are not only going to sink, but we're going to self-destruct. And I think the youth, when they saw our coalition not being able to enter into the chamber, that discouraged a lot of people. And this year, there's only 2 coalitions, and we don't hear any spicy topics coming up. We don't hear anything. We hear nice promises, but I'm hoping that we get innovation, science, technology, IT, digital assets, NFTs. These are the things that we can export as a country. Young Bahrainis mine, they create NFTs, they're artistic, and they know what's up with technology. It's such a shame that we have this giant budget as the chamber, and we don't push these sorts of talents instead of outsourcing them. It breaks my heart. So I really hope that the newly elected chamber that comes up this time takes these things into consideration and brings in people to lead the committees who are experts in their fields and who are dynamic. And you don't have to be the head of a committee for 4 years. Why don't they do committee elections every 6 months? If you're a good committee leader, you stay. If you're not, you're out. We should use our democratic functions for the chamber and for the committees in the chamber. So I hope to see change.
Yes, let's hope for the best.
Let's hope. And I didn't run this year because I'm too busy taking care of my own businesses and saving the world in my own way.
Indeed. Let me finally come to my question of your dear family.
Yes.
You come from a family which the name needs no introduction or definition or description.
Right.
The Fakhro family.
Yes.
Tell us about your beautiful family.
Thank you, dear. It's obviously, again, a double-edged sword because people think, that I was born with a business, inheriting a business, which I was not. I built everything myself. My father is not a businessman. He was serving the government for 30 years of his life. And he is my true inspiration and my true hero. He raised us with idealism of true humanity, saving your fellow man, reading. We had a lot of books in our house. And he was always non-judgmental. So he was the guy that we could go to in the house and tell him our problems, any problem. We'd never get into trouble and we'd never be judged. So that gave me a huge feeling of freedom growing up. And I had a rock that could support any dream that I had. So I'm very grateful to my father and, of course, my mother, who always supported all of our dreams and ideas. And that weight, by the way, of being from a large family is actually a weight because I also represent the whole tribe, right, in my own way. So I have to be careful in what I say and what I do and without negatively affecting the family name or the family brand. Another negative side of it is whenever I negotiate, people always raise the price because they think, oh, he's Fakhro, he can afford it, right? And it's the other way because we've been taught to save money and not to burn it. So I'm very happy to have both parents alive and well and supporting me. And I'm also appreciative to the team that we have who's supporting me, who've been with me for years. So I have, Grace, who's been with me for almost 20 years. I think you know her. All of the other guys, Sami and Saju and Raju and Raj, have been with me for another 15, 20 years. I have Noura, she's great. I have Khalid, Mahmoud, of course, Ramisha, Akash, Sabrina. I'm lucky to have a giant team who blindly believes in me. And that's another weight, because my decisions affect their family life. Yes. It carries, families to sustain themselves. So I'm glad to have such a great support system, and without them and without the people who believe in me, I would be nothing. So thank you for that.
That's a Hamed, I know. Very personal. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It was really nice.
Thank you very much,
Raji.
Raji.
Sharing.
The honor and the blessing is mine, and you, by the way, are one of also the people who lift me up when I'm down, because I know another generous soul who sees life as it really is.
Yes.
And that connection and finding those rare gems in this world is what means a lot to me. And as you know, when you sent me the message, whatever you want, I told you.
Yes, you told me.
I'm in.
Thank you for the trust. Thank you for the friendship.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The honor is mine. Thank you very much, Raji. Thank you.
An enterprising young Bahraini who looks at everything that he does as an experience beyond winning and losing. Yes, that was the daring entrepreneur who was with us on BizTalk from BMC Global Live this evening, Hamed Fakhro. Until we meet next week with yet another guest, this is Raji Krishnan signing off. Good night. Thank you, Hamed, for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Raji.
Please accept a token of appreciation.
Sure.
May I now invite Francis, the Chairman and Managing Director, and Praveen Krishna, the Administrative Head.
Thank you very much, boss. Thank you for having me. The honor and pleasure is mine. Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.